Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this one it's just going to be a brief tutorial on how to use Voobly for GBG and expanded fronts. So if you look here in the background you can see that we've got the Voobly website open, so that's just voobly.com. You can download the client here and what you'll need is a username that you sign up with. And you'll need to use an email address you've got access to, sort of verify that, password, username, and then you can download Voobly, open it up here, and you can log in. That's going to take you to the game browser, which is just going to store all the lobbies that it supports in the different games. So Age of Mythology, Age of Empires 1, 2, 3, Rainbow Six, and ourselves here, GBG Clone Campaigns. So we double click on that and it's going to open the lobby up here. So you can see the players listed here on the right hand side. You can see the game rooms here on the left, so we can host a game. And why we use this over Game Ranger is pretty much because of the EXE patch and the mod options. So basically they let us upload improvements to the game, which RV does there. You can see he's involved in the expanded fronts development. So you notice what he's doing with the mod in the game and improving it there, and I'll talk through that in a moment. So when we go to game, these are basically the ways that you can interact with how the game's going to launch and change it. So the resolution tool is an old desktop resolution option that Voobly originally had for us, but it's a bit sort of outdated here and we've got a much better one. DirectX options are basically you start the game in window mode, you can render at 32-bit color, disable hardware acceleration, just a few things that might help in certain case by case for people. I'd recommend just having these because it's always worked for me. These as well, you can just copy those. Windows compatibility, these are the things, you know, when you right click the properties on it, like an exe or a program, just to make it run a bit smoother with the newer versions of Windows, sort of compatibility options. So I'd recommend that you have all these on because it's a very old game. Live streaming isn't relevant. Start a single player menu, I'll just show you that. Basically you can launch the game. Normally when you launch it without that ticked, it's going to take you to a multiplayer lobby. When we click it here, it's going to take us to single player, just like if you started up the game. So that means you can have all these improvements and get into here and to watch create scenarios, watch recorded games, play the campaigns, etc. That should all work fine. I'll come back here. Visual or content mods. So there's a few things that have been uploaded by particular users. So we've got Small Trees by Tavius. There is two Small Trees, but I'd recommend you use this one because it's tiny in comparison in terms of size and download speed, and it's just much more efficient and it looks fine. And we've got the grid terrains as well, which is popular with Age of Empires 2. So it just helps you wall and just see the sort of like the gaps between objects here. Now, there's other things like the EXE patch and the data patch, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So if we go back to the room, so these can be sort of toggled here, like the different patch versions and the mods. So the patches are down here. We've got the EXE patch, so this will be the one for like vanilla GBG. So it's been uploaded by RVA there, and if you look through it, there's tons of bug fixes, and some of these being quite notorious, like the out of sync errors. So you can see there's about 4 or so there that have been listed that have been fixed. And what these would do is just make the game go out of sync, everyone goes back to the lobby and have to restore it from a saved game, and this used to plague us for years and years. I can't remember the last time it happened because it happened like 3 times and it was a really weird one, but very, very uncommon now that we have this problem at all. And there's actually some good quality of life improvements here. There'll be a link to everything in the description. You can have a read through them yourself, but some of the things that I would sort of sell to you here are multiple building queue. So you can select, say, like all your mech factories with this button as well, which has been enabled. So you can select all buildings of the same type. And when you queue up the commands, it won't just go into one building like it used to with normal GBG. It'll go across the different buildings, so it'll have a much more modern feeling for an RTS game. There are also some handy hotkeys here, like select all your idle workers, all your idle military units, and there'll be other things here that you could just sort of have a read through. It's hard for me to pick them all out because there's a lot of different sort of improvements. There's even enhancements for the scenario editor as well, if that's your sort of flavour. But that can be selected here in the game room. You just choose the patch. Now you'll need to download this on your own if you don't have it, or if you join someone's room who's hosting it with this, Voobly will basically patch that for you, and then you'll be able to host games with this as well. If you don't have it, you can get it from here in game mods, the EXE patch, and there'll be a link down in the description as well. Now what the EXE patch also does for us when we come down here, so these are the visual content mods that we talked about before. You could just enable them there, but you download them from those links. Go into the EXE patch, we've got key down object hotkeys. That basically just makes the hotkeys activate as soon as you press them down rather than release them. Dark minimap grey, pretty obvious, just makes the grey player colour look a bit darker on the minimap, easier to see. Delinking the system volume basically stops this controlling the game volume and lets you control it properly in game, because it doesn't seem to work these days with modern Windows, and I could never get the game to be quiet enough when I wanted to make videos. Built-in widescreen, this is the much better desktop resolution tool than the one up here, so I would recommend that you just use this one, and it will use your native desktop resolution in game. Alternative text rendering, that's basically just fixing some issues that we noticed with lag in some people would get it, others wouldn't, but I would recommend you have it on, and just so that if everyone's using that, that will limit a lot of the lag that can happen with the game with like modern CPUs and such. And alternative chat box, if you're having problems with your text showing up in game, I would recommend you have that one ticked. So that's everything about for sort of vanilla GBG there. What I can do is I'll just quickly show you the desktop resolution, but you should have seen it in like games and stuff if you've watched any of the other videos on the channel. But what we will do is just like, we're on 1920, 1080. So we just start a game. This might crash actually. So I've got expanded front stuff on. Oh no. Yeah, it's going to crash instantly. Typical. So we'll quickly go back again. That's another thing though, if you're using expanded fronts and you try to play vanilla with it, or you try to play the expanded fronts maps, if they've got things that are not in the base game, like this Endor is going to have like lots of like Ewok stuff and that's not in the base game, it's going to crash just like that. So if that happens to you, you know why. So there we go. Desktop res. If you're having problems with it and it's like not properly desktop res, you might want to come in to the options or press F10 and just make sure you tick the bottom screen size thing, and it should fix it for you, I would have thought. I'll get back out of there. Now, expanded fronts is pretty much just very similar. So if we wanted to play expanded fronts, we would choose the EF EXE patch. So it's we've got EXE patch for vanilla, EF for expanded fronts, and expanded fronts data rather than data patch here. So that would let us launch into expanded fronts. It's got that annoying little 6-second wind up just to take the flow out of the video. So as you can see, we're in expanded fronts, and that'll all be working fine. So that's all working. No problems there. If you don't know how to get expanded fronts, I'll briefly talk about that. So expanded fronts is on mod database, moddb.com. You find a link for that down below. You can get all these things off of their Discord, which you'll find linked here somewhere. I couldn't exactly tell you where it is. But pretty much you've got to download this mod. It's going to be like a patched version of the game. I would recommend that you have the game first. I think you should need the original game installed, which you can get off of Steam or GOG.com, good old games. It's extremely cheap, like 2 or 3 quid. You're going to need the same sort of things that you need for vanilla here. So you'll need the expanded fronts data, you'll need the EXE patch, and you're going to need the assets. Now I think these two can be sent to you when you join a room that someone else has got hosted with these enabled, but you're going to need to get the assets on your own here. So everything will be in the link in the description. But once you've got all of that, you should be able to play the game properly on Voobly here. And that's really about it. That's all I could say on this. So if you've liked the video, please leave a comment, leave a like on the little thumbs up bit, and subscribe to the channel if you're not, because we'll be doing more content for GBG and hopefully expanded fronts in the future. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Goodbye.